Hey, this is Kevin Purcell with another Theotek podcast. Every Friday mornings here at 9 o'clock, we get online and start talking about church and Bible technology. And I'm glad to be with my two good friends now, Rick Mansfield and Wes Allen. Antoine couldn't join us this week. I think he's off on a CIA mission somewhere, since all of us are secret operatives. And, I'm not supposed to have told. Sorry, guys. Anyway, if someone knocks on the door with an Uzi, that's my fault. No, today what we're going to do is we're going to talk about our favorite Bible software. Last week we talked about gadgets, but there is a little bit of news that I want to share just briefly before we jump into that, if that's all right, guys. I don't know if you saw this week that Bibleworks released a new version, Bibleworks 10, which is kind of big for them because they're not one of these companies that comes out with a new version every year. And they had some new features involved in that. Did either of you see that they had released that?
Yes.
Yeah, I did.
And I was hoping to have it on my computer before our show today, but looks like it'll be later today.
Well, maybe next week you can show it off a little bit. If I don't get my copy, we can drool over yours. I'm a big Bibleworks fan, except that I don't really use it as much now. Because as I was sharing with Rick earlier before the show, I made a full move to Mac and didn't go back for about 2 years. And Bibleworks on a Mac, just to be quite honest with you, it's running under Wine, and it's not great. I'll see in this new version whether it's gotten any better. But so I just didn't bother. And at the time, I also found Accordance. And so Accordance kind of is that Bibleworks for Mac itch with a little bit more to it than that. So anyway, some of the new things, let me show, I've got it on screen here, some of the new stuff that is most exciting. Let's see here. They've got updating things. They've got NA28 in it natively. Probably one of the most interesting things is this epub reader. That's the thing I think I heard most people reacting to, that you can put epub files in it. And yes, the verses are hyperlinked, which I didn't even know that until this morning. Rick and I talked about it, and he said that he discovered that. And so it looks like a pretty interesting update, and I look forward to getting it. Have you guys had a chance to look at what this new stuff and anything else you see that's really interesting or exciting?
No, the one thing I love is that EPUB.
Yeah.
I think that's awesome.
And I think there's also some window like color customizations that you can do, and then they've also added the ability to add colors to like you can show parts of speech or something like that in color, which is interesting. Let me see if I can show you that. We won't do the audio for this, but here's their intro video. But I guess that's what it looks like here. I'll make that on big screen so you can see it a little bit better. Looking at old guys talking about Bible software isn't that exciting. Wait a minute, that's what people do on this show every week, isn't it? But you get the point anyway. So go check that out over at Bibleworks.com. You can see more about it, and we'll talk more about it in the future. Rick, you've got something you want to share?
Yeah. I wanted to go back to the EPUB thing again. There's Bibleworks is an interesting company because they take a bit of a different approach from Accordance and Logos and some of the others, in that they don't really push you to build a big electronic library. They actually have a page on their website that talks about the dangers of building an electronic library, which is interesting since that's what they sell, but on a smaller scale. And of course that's the exact opposite from what I want to do. I want to have I don't want to add physical books to my house anymore. I'd much rather have them electronically where I can take them with me. But some of their concerns are warranted, and so I think that EPUB import is a good solution for them, for people who want to add books to that. And my questions that I mentioned to you before the show, I'd really like to see about how well that's integrated with the rest of the software. Can you be in a biblical text and do a contextual pull up a contextual menu and search through that material. It is very nice that they hyperlink the scripture references and there's a table of contents that's generated from the EPUB structure. My other question is that EPUB file editable afterwards? Because there are programs that you can generate your own content from. I mean, even iWorks Pages can export as EPUB, so you can create your own books fairly easily in a program like that or something else, and you could create your own files for it. So I'll be interested to see how flexible the EPUB functionality is in Bibleworks 10.
Yeah, I'm really interested in that. I want to know what types of books can I import, so that if I get something from Amazon and suddenly it doesn't have DRM anymore, I don't know how that would happen. Can I put that into Bibleworks and use it? And the one thing I love about accordance with my commentaries is that it follows the text when I go through. So how do they manage something like that? But I saw that and went, wow, I love that idea. I thought that was great.
Here's the screenshot they have of that shows the coloring, and you can customize this. So, for example, if you want it, different kinds of verbs in the original language, you want them to have different colors. You see, it's got red and blue and green and things like that. That way, it pops out. You can you do that in Accordance? Can you set something like that up in Accordance, Rick?
You can customize. In fact, there's in the preferences there, they actually have some different kind of like themes like you have in Windows, to where you can set some defaults for some things, or you can create custom ones.
Okay, I know you can do that also in Logos, although I have it set up, but I have it turned off because I spend only about a third of or not even that much, 10% of my time doing the original language. I'm not as skilled with the original languages. But here's the EPUB reader that you can see, and so just some screenshots of it. And I agree. I think this and probably the hopefully far improved Mac installer will be the most exciting features of this. I like Bibleworks in that it's easy to lay out your screen in a consistent way. I know the others can do this as well, but I don't know. It just seemed quicker to me.
They were. They're really touting that the interface is extremely customizable now.
Yeah, and it has been for a while, but even more so. Another thing I like about it, again, I'm not saying others don't do this well, but if you create large note files in Bibleworks, you can go to that directory on your hard drive and open those files in any rich text formatting.
Oh, really?
App. Yeah, their notes are basically just RTF files with some hyperlinks in it. So that was one of the things I liked about it is, and it's also one of the reasons it was very easy for me to get out of it, and that is because I just copied my notes folder out and put it in my documents folder, and now I had all that stuff, and so I wasn't tied to it. But
years ago, I tried to get them to adopt OTF. Just for that same reason, because I saw they were using rich text, and I thought, man, go this way, and it'll be even better.
Yeah.
And,
but I think that goes with their philosophy about they're trying not to tie people down too much to a particular platform, because will we build these libraries? Will we be able to open them 20 years from now, 30 years from now? And I said, boy, I hope so, especially after investing in that. In fact, I invest in electronic content because physical content can be destroyed so easily, and it's not necessarily recoverable. But
well, that's a great segue to getting into what we decided we'd talk about today, and that is our favorite apps and stuff. And I'll mention one right off the bat. I'll pull it up here. This is something called WordPerfect Reader. Can you believe that? And it doesn't edit WordPerfect files, but I have a ton of old sermons in WordPerfect or Bible studies in WordPerfect, and don't judge the quality of this Bible study. It's from very early in my ministry, but anyway, it pulls up a file for me, and so that way I can get at it real quickly. That's available in the Mac App Store. I don't know if there's a Windows version of it. I don't think so, but how about you, Rick? Show me something you like.
You're saying that it won't convert though?
No, you can copy and paste. And so that's
Okay.
when I open one up, I'll just copy and paste it.
Okay. Okay. You say you want me to show you one?
Yeah, go ahead. Let's do this round robin real quick. Just each grab one, and then we'll move on to the next
Okay.
guy. Wes will be next, and go ahead.
All right. Let's see here. If you can, I'll start a screen share here, and I'm going to pull up Evernote, which we talk about, and that may be more of a major program, but I use it for a number of different things. And one reason I like Evernote so much, can you see my screen okay?
Yep.
Okay, one reason I like Evernote so much is because I can start working on one on one device and move to the other device. You know, this week I was taking some notes on something, and I got out to my car and I thought, oh yeah, I need to do that, and I pulled up my iPhone, pulled up Evernote, and added it to the same file or the same note, you know, in Evernote that I'd been taking, even though I'd left that one open on my MacBook. When I reopened the MacBook, it just automatically pulled that content in and synced, and that's why I love it, because Evernote is on everything. It's even going to be on the new Apple Watch, and you can dictate to it, evidently. But you know, I do a lot of my composing, and so I'm trying to show you some safe content here, because I've got some content that's private, and I'll talk about that in a second. But you know, this, for instance, was a blog post that I wrote for Accordance back in, I guess, in February, and you know, here I was able to do really the full layout, including screenshots in the text, and so I would compose it here, and I can switch devices. You know, I mean, in fact, I think all these screenshots are from a Windows computer, but the other thing that I really like about it is sometimes if I want other people to proof this, you know, I can say share note, and you know, and here, look, it automatically came up with some of your names because we've shared content over Evernote before. But you know, I can share that content and even create a web page. It's great for making quick and dirty web pages if you just want to show someone something very quickly, and you'll create a link and you can send that out. And so I use this constantly. The other kinds of things that I use it for, though, is I put personal information in, and that's what I had to make sure wasn't going to show up here all of a sudden. You know, I've got, if I go to the doctor and I get a prescription, I take a copy of that prescription with my phone and let it automatically, you know, I have a folder called medical or health or something like that. If I've got a copy of my license plate, if you've ever gone to check into a hotel and they want the license plate of your vehicle, I don't have that memorized, but I can pull it up in Evernote real quick. You know, and so, and I do everything from, you know, grocery list. I save articles constantly. You know, if I see an article on in a web browser, I can hit a little Evernote button on there, and I can save it to that. Sometimes there'll be an important email, and I'll take an email, and Evernote gives you an email address, and I can send that to myself in Evernote, and it's there waiting for me later, and I can use that content however I want. So it's kind of become my go-to program. It's like my starting program. You know, this content, like this blog, for instance, this may not be where this content ends up, but this is where it starts. And so I use it for all kinds of things.
I agree. I think it's a good solution. Actually, I just shared a file with you if you want to show them that you can actually share content between one another. If you look in our Theotek folder, I created a thing, just a tiny little note. I think that's one of the. I still get amazed by crazy stuff like that, you know.
And I don't see it yet. This was where I was testing some content here. Here it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Evernote's one of those things that every time I see someone using it, I want to use it, and it never gets on my radar for some reason. But I find myself kind of wading into it, and I realize that probably 3 years from now, Evernote will be like where I live.
Well, we've pulled you in a little bit, and
yeah.
I use it more like Rick does in that it's my brain.
Yeah.
I don't put a whole lot of active work content into it, but I store a lot of my receipts for tax purposes, and
yeah, me too.
I store personal information that I want to grab quickly.
So you guys aren't worried. I mean, this is a free service.
Well, I pay $5 a month.
Yeah, It's a
So you're
paid
paying.
service for
Yeah,
me.
I'm on a free service, so I'm a little more leery of putting stuff on there. I
Well,
don't know if I want them using
you
my,
can
my
export.
receipts as product. What's that, Rick?
You can export it out. One thing I often do, like for instance, those blog posts that I've written there, at a certain point, I'll go in and clean it up, and I usually just save those as you can export to HTML.
Yeah.
And so you'll create an HTML file, a little folder for your graphics and so forth, and that's usually how. Of course, you can always save a PDF of anything, but that's usually what I eventually do when it just starts to when my list for a particular notebook gets too long. I'll export it out elsewhere.
Wes, what's your favorite tool you want to show us or program?
Well, let me show you what I use to write on a daily basis, or not a daily basis, but mostly a daily basis. Let me go over here. And this, let me get to the other one there. This is typed. This is a Markdown editor that was put out by RealMac. RealMac is the same company that does Rapid Weaver and Clear for iOS. They came out with this, I guess, over the summer. And their whole idea is that they wanted to create like a Zen-like experience to do Markdown editing. You can actually see their icon down here is the T for typed, kind of going through the sand of a Zen garden, which is really kind of fun. It's not the most featured Markdown editor out there. It doesn't export into 4 billion formats or anything like that. I have other editors that I use to do that. But this is the one I write in, and it's the one that just gets out of the way. You can see it has, when you put Markdown formatting in, it'll do live preview in the actual writing that you can go and do a full preview later.
Wes?
What?
Can you just explain what you mean by a Markdown editor? I think most of us understand, but there might be...
and I brought it up before, so I didn't know how much I wanted to put in. For folks who don't know, Markdown is meant to be a human-readable markup language, so that should all file formats and viewers and readers go away, you'd still be able to read it and understand what's going on. And so it cheats a little bit now because it does things like live preview, but you put one asterisk around anything and it becomes italicized. You put two asterisks around anything and it becomes bold. Let's see, let me demonstrate other things. My whole thing is, it was originally designed to export out to HTML for creating simple web articles and things like that. And so what it handles really well is document structure, and this is something I'm big on. To do like a first level header, you just do one number sign or one hashtag in front of it, and to do a second level, you do two.
So that one kind of looks like the first level.
It's interesting that you can see it changes here. Yeah. One of the things they did for live preview is all the titles just look the same.
Okay.
So for that, you just have to do hashtag. But when you go to the actual live preview, you can see it actually shrinks down, and every time you go down a level, it will change. One of the things I do like about typed is that they hacked a little bit to where this is considered one font. You see, this has serifs, and this is a sans serif font. What they did is they actually took one font and they kind of hacked it together so that when it shows that it has a title or a hashtag in front of it, it'll change it to this nice big sans serif. So you get this real kind of pleasurable experience in writing. I really like it. It's really kind of nice for me. There's other ways that you can do it. This is how I blog, by the way. Links are handled really well, to where you put anything in brackets is what's going to be in the bracket. And then after that, you just put your URL, and then you can put a title in quotes and do that. And when you go to live preview, I did it wrong. Hold on a second here. That was embarrassing. Let's see. Oh, you know what? Am I missing the space? There it goes.
There you go.
It didn't handle the title. I might have put a wrong space in there. But to me, that's really kind of nice. And again, I can pick this up on any editor or any plain text editor, and I know exactly what's going on there.
Yeah.
And I can read it. And this is how I write all my sermons now. It's how I do all my blogs. I really like it. So it's kind of fun. And this has been my go-to, even though it doesn't have the full whiz-bang features of export. It doesn't handle multi-markdown. For example, this, in an editor that can read it, is a footnote. And you can see my footnote is down here at the end of the paragraph. But again, yeah, so even then, see how it shows up just as this when I go to preview in this app? Well, I can just open that text up in anything else, and it will show up and interpret it as HTML correctly, which to me, that's the power of Markdown. In fact, I just copy and paste this and throw it in my WordPress editor, and it automatically takes everything
That's cool.
well. So I like it, and it's just, for me, it's a real nice way to write. It gets out of the way, and to me, it's very pleasurable.
Speaking of writing, I saw that you had Scrivener on there. Why don't you go ahead and show us that too?
Okay, you're going to let me go two in a row. Let me reshare my screen here. Yay.
While you're doing that, I've also got a similar thing, but I don't use it for Markdown. I've got IA Writer.
Yeah, IA Writer is really cool too, yeah.
And it does Markdown, but I don't Markdown. I don't use Markdown, but it's just a distraction-free writer. I don't have anything in it, so it comes with Alice in Wonderland text.
Yeah. It's kind of
But
cool.
I just really like, the distraction-free aspect of it, and sometimes you get stuck, and, when I do long-form writing, this is where I write first.
Yep. So here's Scrivener.
Go ahead.
I typically use Scrivener for long-form writing. What I have open here is a how-to. I basically created it as an ebook to teach the staff for ABCNJ how to use MailChimp, because we just made a switch to there. And I like it. And you break out your long form into different documents. So every section is essentially its own document. The cool thing is for this is that you're not locked in to Scrivener as the format. A Scrivener folder is actually, it's a lot like Keynote or the old iWork documents, to where it really is just a zipped folder, or even open document format. And so what's nice is that I can actually, go into this and show the contents of that package, and you'll find out that everything here is basically just an RTF document. So I really find that very nice, that I know that my stuff is secure should Scrivener blow up one day. And you see I have different levels. I put all my chapters start as a folder, and then the documents go down from there. Scrivener's it takes a little bit of getting used to, because what you see here is not necessarily what you're going to see when you export out. They call exporting compiling. And so you create different settings in order to compile out. And the formatting that matters is the formatting that's here, not the formatting that's in the editor window. And that takes getting used to. People really find that as a hard trip. But as far as for structuring stuff, Scrivener knocks it out of the park. It's really kind of cool.
Yeah, I was going to ask, what's the benefit of that as to doing it, WYSIWYG?
I think it's well, this is RTF, so I can do like character formatting. So if I make that italics, that's going to hold over. I've created certain styles that will carry over to the compiled format. So for like scripture quotes or block quotes or things like that, I have that set up in certain ways. But for structuring, it's really cool. I can actually split this into two different panes and open up two different documents. So say I'm writing a really long post and I want to know what I was talking about way up top. I can put that in the top post, and so I can see what's going on while I'm writing at the bottom. For fiction writing, that's great, because I can actually put any world building materials in one pane, and then what I'm writing on the other, so I'm not constantly switching between documents in order to see what's going on. So that's kind of cool. They have a wonderful composition mode where things just, again, they get out of the way. I can actually change this to a background image that I want. So for a while I was actually using this to write my sermons, but I just find that I write faster for something like that that's my sermons are short form. They're usually only about 1,000 words, so I find Markdown better for short form writing. And I can import Markdown files in here into Scrivener and then export out. So that's kind of cool. So it does certain things really well. And it actually comes with presets for if you're a professional writer, you can export things out in manuscript format to submit to publishers and things like that. So there are values to Scrivener, especially for long-form writing is really where it shines.
And did you say whether or not Scrivener is available yet on mobile devices, iOS
No,
and Android?
they have an iOS platform that's been in development forever. In fact, the one novel I'm writing is on hiatus because I use my iPad so much for my writing, and I'm like, I want it. What happened was their original developer had to drop out because they had family issues, and they've been very apologetic. They've rewritten, and then iOS 7 happened and iOS 8, so they've rewritten all the core code. They're just about ready to go to beta testing, so everybody's kind of gnawing at the bit.
Well, and this year for iOS, all apps have to be 64-bit.
Yeah, they're not going to have a problem with that because they've been developing new. So it really is. It's a nice app. I really like it. There's a similar one out there that uses Markdown called Ulysses, which does have an iOS app. I don't like that quite as much because it puts everything in a single library, and I like having my different projects as their own libraries. And also, the Ulysses is kind of a custom Markdown that's tied into iCloud, and I don't like that. So, as tempting as Ulysses is for me, because it's got the Markdown and the plain text and it's really fast, I find myself leaning more towards Scrivener. So those are my two for right now.
All right. Well, speaking of writing, let me show you one that I've got up here on my Windows tablet. This is an app that runs in. What is they've changed the name of their. Are they modern apps now? Is that the term they're using?
Yes, modern.
They're going to just call them Windows apps in Windows 10.
Apps.
Yeah.
Anyway, they have such an absolute tone-deaf understanding of marketing at Microsoft that
they're getting better. I think their new guy really kind of understands it better than Steve Ballmer ever.
Well, let's not beat up Microsoft too much, but I haven't used this app on this tablet very often, so I don't really have anything in here. But it's basically a note-taking app.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I showed off the TruePen last week on my new Windows tablet. But and so it looks like it's jumpy because of the fact that we're doing this streaming over the internet, but it's incredibly smooth. I wish that you could see what I'm seeing, how quick it is, but anyway, it's very smooth.
I'm looking at the wrong screen, Kevin. I'm seeing Note Burner drag movie files here, but then I see a small window where you're actually writing.
Okay.
He's got the two computers open. I actually just clicked on his preview to make sure it's got.
What people are seeing right now is the big screen should show that what I'm seeing here.
Okay.
But again, it's got you can change your pen to different styles. So if you wanted to do this, I've got a background with lines because I mainly as a note taking. But you could do some art if you wanted. You can add recordings to it. You can import text. Not import. Well, you can import text, but you can type.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see here. What else?
Kevin, does it have like a zoom mode?
Yeah. I wanted to show you that. That's one of the coolest parts of it.
I love zoom mode.
This down here, now I've got the palm rejection section, and it's not going to let me
for right-handers.
I don't use the palm rejection. I couldn't figure out how to get rid of it because I never use it. But here's the zoom mode.
I love that.
It brings up, and so let me get a better pen for zoom mode. There we go.
That's gorgeous looking ink.
Yeah,
and so let's say I'm taking a meeting note, and they said I gotta pick up new Bibles. And notice as it gets to that grayed area, it automatically advances for you.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I love that. Then it has its own syncing service. And here's the beauty of this. This thing runs on Windows tablets or phones, and of course it'll run on Windows 8.1 computers in the modern UI version. It also has an iPad and iPhone version, and it has Android. So it is truly a cross-platform, and it looks exactly the same.
Which app is it?
It does not have a native Mac version yet. That's the thing I really want to see. It's called Metamoji Note.
Does the content sync across your devices?
Yes, it'll sync to everything, and it syncs beautifully. It syncs almost instantly. What I'm writing here, if I was to pull up my iPad, within maybe a minute, it would show up on my iPad. If you tap on up there in the corner, you can see the sync thing. No, that's the menu. Let's see here. Where's syncing at? Again, I keep forgetting how to. I don't think about syncing because it just does it. But there's a way you can force it to sync.
Holy smokes! It's free.
There's a free version, and then there's a paid version, and I've got the paid version to get all the whiz-bang features and everything. Here's the note organization feature. Here's the syncing up here at the toolbar. I haven't set up my account on this tablet yet because, again, I've just gotten this tablet, so I haven't set anything up on here. That's why you're seeing hardly anything in here. But it's in my opinion, it's the best note-taking app. I was very tempted to use that Toshiba TrueNote app that came with the Toshiba tablet that I've got here, and that's a really nice. Let's see here. That's a really nice tool as well, but it's only on this tablet, and
right.
That's it.
That's the reason I don't. That's the main reason I don't use that, is because it's only on the Toshiba tablet, but I really like it.
Yeah, and, I mean, this thing has. Again, I don't want to talk too much about the Toshiba tablet, but this thing has a really awesome feature of, importing. I can put a document under this, and it'll automatically find my document. But again, it's this only, and so I can't use it because I'm not going to be only using this tablet. Now, if I was a normal person, and this was the only tablet I had and only one I used, I'd probably go with the TrueNote document. But Metamoji Note is actually better. It just doesn't have it doesn't have as good an import feature for things like documents, but it's almost as good. So, you add a new page, hit the plus button up here, add photo from the camera. Yeah, allow it. All right, so hi there, guys. So I can, let's see here. All right, so it selected that. I can crop my ugly head. Add that in there. Now,
this is a lot like Notability, but it's cross-platform.
There you go. So I can doodle on my face. I love that app. That's the best app that I can think of. Now let me go back over here to my Mac and show you NoteBurner. This is a program that's meant to break the law, and I just want to tell you that up front. But I believe that the old fair use laws are still in effect. Even though the Digital Millennium Copyright Act postdates it, there's a legal debate going on among lawyers. I don't want to get into all that, except that I say I've decided that I fall in the camp, and I've looked at it, that fair use is an acceptable use as long as you're doing it for education. Well, what are we? We're preachers. We educate people. And so what you can do with this is you can take your movies that you have bought legally, and you can convert them into non-DMR videos. Okay. Again,
and these are stuff you buy from iTunes, right?
I'm not advocating giving these away. Here's the only reason I do this. I do this so that I can get clips that I can legally show because of, I pay the copyright fees and things like that. And so this will now convert this. You hit the convert button. I'm not going to do it now because it takes a lot of processing power. This will convert an iTunes file into a DRM-free MP4 file, which then I can import into QuickTime QuickTime and just trim off the stuff that I don't want in order to show a quick clip. And I think there's nothing wrong with that, especially if you're using it in a small class format, that kind of thing. I know people will. There probably are people who may watch this or listen to this and say, "That's wrong. You shouldn't do that. That's illegal." I'm sorry. I don't agree with you. I'm not a lawyer, but I've heard lawyers talk about this.
But it's actually not.
For fair use, it's not. Say that again, Wes.
It's not. The bizarre thing about the thing is that there's two laws that are in conflict. It's legal for you to make a backup for yourself.
And that's
it's your thing, and then they made another law that said, but it's illegal to break encryption. And where the two have conflicted, the DCMA is the one that actually ends up on the short end of the stick, even though copyright companies like to think of it as this big club, and unfortunately they use it that way. But it's not illegal. What's illegal is to distribute software that is deliberately designed to bypass encryption.
Yeah, this piece of software technically is illegal, but it's not made in the United States, and so it's not bound by our laws.
And it's not even illegal to have.
Right.
It's just illegal to sell. It's really bizarre.
And by the way, I do run cross-platform, and so I don't always watch movies on my iDevices. I watch them sometimes on an Android tablet and on a Windows computer. That I don't install iTunes unless I absolutely have to.
Oh, and I'm going to get this eventually, Kev, to stick on mine, because I put all my movies on a network drive just so I can stream them when I'm out and about.
Yeah, it's a great
from my network.
But I use it primarily as a backup tool, like you said, to get rid of the DRM so that I can always watch it no matter what happens in the future. But then my purpose in showing it to our audience today is to show you it's so easy to grab a thing like that and then get a clip. I can show you real quick what you do. Well, you know how to do that. In QuickTime, just go into QuickTime and you can trim things off. If you don't want to use QuickTime, if you prefer to use a different program like iMovie or something like that, you can still do it in iMovie as well. Or I guess you could use what's the big daddy of Mac video
Final
edit?
Cut.
Final Cut. Yeah, you could use Final Cut if you want, or Premiere. Yeah, but it's not necessary. So, all right, Rick, what have you got?
Another. Let me go back and share my screen here. The other. Here we go. The other thing that I wanted to talk about for a moment was Keynote, but it was specifically a particular trick that I can do in Keynote. And so I'm going to open up Accordance. I know we're not talking about Bible software today, but you know, often when I'm teaching a class, either in the college classroom or at church, I want to use an image like this. So I'm going to copy a picture, and I'm going to go over here to Keynote, and let me create a new file, and I'm going to purposefully get one with a dark background here. And so I'll delete those elements, and I'll paste the item in here. And you know, in the old days, we'd be stuck with that. We'd be stuck with this white background unless we wanted to edit it in Photoshop ahead of time. But one of the things that really sold me on Keynote was that I can easily go in here, and I do believe that newer versions of PowerPoint will do this well. I mean, do this as well. I don't know if they do it as nicely as this, but it's so easy. I can just come in here, and I've removed that background that quickly. And then usually what I do is I come in here and I'll create a little drop shadow too. And I don't know how well this will show up, but it put a little drop shadow just around this image instead of around the square, the original square that was there. And of course these are resizable as you would expect. But you know, I use things like this to illustrate slides or to show something, you know. And the other thing I liked about Keynote as well, when the iPad first came out in 2010, it was the only app that I knew that would allow you to use presenter notes, and so I use presenter notes heavily in my teaching. That the idea that I've got a set of notes on my screen, but that's separate from the screen that's showing up elsewhere.
Now you can annotate your slides from that too.
Yeah, you're exactly right. So So anyway, I wanted to show that. Let me Let me switch back to.
Yeah, that looks like a useful feature, and I don't know whether that is possible in PowerPoint to that degree or not. I haven't tried it, even though that's my primary presentation tool. I'm a Microsoft Office user. I use it across all the platforms. I love that you can do it on Android and on iOS now. I write in Word. I save it in OneNote or OneDrive and immediately open it up on my either my iPad or my Surface Pro, depending on which one I feel like using that day for preaching with my notes. And it's just right there. And I used to use Pages for that purpose only, but
Yeah.
I've just always been a Word guy, and so I prefer using Word.
Mm-hmm.
Have you got another one, Rick? You want to show us real quick?
Well, the other one I was going to, I'll just tell you about because I'd have to hook my iPad up to it. But another app that I use a whole lot is Goodreader on the iPad.
Ooh, yeah.
And I use Goodreader. There are a number of apps that will read PDFs, but the Goodreader is the only one that I could find that wouldn't crash under like a 700-page document that I'd scanned. And so, after trying out a number of them, and of course, I'm sure they're all improved since I first did that test. I've used Goodreader, and Goodreader is also not just good for documents. It's a pretty good file manager itself, and it's now in iCloud, and so I can actually here's Goodreader. I can actually drop a document into here, and it will just show up on my iPad or my iPhone, which is pretty handy.
Mm-hmm.
It will also play audio files. The PDF has really good markup that saves to the file, and so if I save it in on the iPad or the iPhone, it will show with those same markup notes on the. And I'm not talking about the markup you were talking about, Wes. I'm just talking about highlights and.
Yeah.
That will show back up on the version on my computer as well. So it's a handy little program.
Mm-hmm.
I use a lot.
All right. Wes, let's get back to you. What do you have?
You want me to show Lightroom, Kev, or do you want to do that yourself?
You can go for it.
Hello?
Yeah, go for it.
Rick, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Kevin, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. You're not hearing me, though, it sounds like.
Okay.
He's frozen or I'm frozen.
Okay, I hear you, Kevin.
Okay, it sounds like Wes is frozen. He was talking about using Lightroom.
Yeah, do you want me to?
Go ahead. We're cutting.
I know, I'm a little jittery. I don't know why. So I'm having some issues with the network this morning. But
I'll tell you what. You talk about it, and I'll show it. So that way you don't have to use up too much bandwidth, maybe.
Okay, cool. That might be fun. All right,
I've got it up here on the screen, and we're showing it. And this is just a random picture I took from a vacation we took a couple years ago. So
nice picture.
Thanks.
So Lightroom is part of Adobe's Creative Cloud, although you can buy it on its own. It's a $149. Oh, Antoine jumped in. I am a recent migrant to Lightroom. I was using Aperture as my first app for a very long time, and I got that as soon as I started shooting RAW with my first DSLR that someone had given to me for my birthday. So that's kind of my introduction to the whole idea of RAW editing. Aperture is really nice. Apple does user interfaces brilliantly, but they've retired it in favor of Photos, which is not my favorite thing on the planet, and I had anticipated switching to something else, and this is where I went. And I have fallen in love with it after I first got my import done. It is utterly so powerful what you can do. The developing features, you can see up on the side there, Kev, you can see right now he's in library view. When you go to developing, the things that you can do with a RAW file, and for folks who don't know what RAW is, a lot of your point-and-shoot cameras or your phones, when you take a picture, it will compress it, turn it into a JPEG, which means that it's picking and choosing based on what's reasonably appropriate for that image, what parts of the image sensor it's going to throw into that picture. A raw file, by contrast, is essentially everything that the image sensor takes in, you have access to, which means the files are huge, but really what it means when you bring it into something like Lightroom is that you're essentially dealing with a negative. You can do anything to this in non-destructive ways, and you can change the images like so radically based on whatever your needs at the time are. You know, switch it to black and white or monochrome. You can do lens corrections for whatever lens that you have. So one of my Nikon lenses really has a lot of like vignetting, which is where it gets dark on the edge. You can actually see how it bubbles out a little bit, and you click on here's my profile, and it goes boom, and it's like this perfect picture. It's amazing. You can change the white balance, so whatever. I just went out last week and I went shooting on a photo walk, and I realized that I had kept my white balance set up for being down in my church basement. So everything had this blue tint to it. And I was like, oh no. And I went, oh no, I shot raw. And I went up to the editing and I went, here, just do an auto, and I put it out, and all of a sudden it looked like I was out in the daylight again. That's brilliant and stuff like this.
How difficult was it, Wes, to convert from Aperture to Lightroom?
For a lot of people, it's real simple. They Adobe created a migration app that will take the library and bring it over. I had issues because I had something that was screwing up the conversion process, and I could not figure out what it was. And so what I did is that I broke up my Aperture library by year, and I imported every year separately. And that took so many minutes itself. And I found there was 1 year that had one project that was corrupting the whole thing, and I have no idea why. So I actually weeded out, and so I just imported all those images on their own. So it was what was really hard after that was just organizing my setup, because it puts all the projects become folders in Lightroom's library. So Kevin, if you want to go back to library view.
Yeah, Kevin, you're doing a great job of
He is doing a fantastic job. So if you see on the side here, he's in folders view. So actually scroll down a little bit, Kev. And there's your collections view. So you have the big thing on the top. It looks like a filing box. That's your each separate collection. So what happens is that when you import from Aperture, it creates a collection called Aperture. And then underneath there, you see all those folders. These are all smart collections for that. There's one for soccer. So what happens is that it would take the year or whatever, and I forget because I cleaned it up now. I forget what it did, but essentially all the projects would be 2 levels down. So if I wanted to get to like my Williamsburg photos, I had to go into a folder and then into a project. And so for when I came time where I wanted to sync to Lightroom Mobile, which is this new app that they have, it's only on Android phone right now, not on Android tablet, which is annoying me, and it's also on iOS. You can choose different projects that you want to sync to Lightroom Mobile, and you have it only syncs over the smart previews, which are kind of like the smaller versions of the file, but you have access to about 90% of the types of editing features that you can do in Lightroom. So when I'm working on a project, I'll sync just that project over, and I'll take it with me wherever I go, and I really appreciate that. So it was cleaning up the library after Aperture imported. That was the thing that really took a long time. Once I got that done, I love it.
How many pictures?
What's that?
How many pictures did you convert over?
Let me check. I can tell you in a second. How many photographs do I have? Right currently, I have 18,000 photos.
Okay.
And probably when I did the conversion just a couple months ago, I probably had about 16,000.
Yeah.
And
I asked because I had 35,000 photos and over 700 videos in Aperture, and and of course Apple's discontinued that, and so I haven't taken the plunge into Lightroom yet. I'm trying out photos, but I uploaded all of that content. It took like 3 weeks. I uploaded all of that content into the cloud, and it's nice to have it all in the cloud, but I missed some of the features that Aperture had.
And I didn't want to pay to keep on having to upgrade. Well, now I need 2 terabytes. I was like, I don't want to do that. And I like having all my stuff.
Mine fit in around 300 gigabytes, I believe.
Yeah, and it didn't make sense to me. Especially now that I'm shooting like almost solely raw. So I
Yeah.
mean, I'm going a gig like every 3 months or something.
Right.
So I didn't like that, and I don't like the layout of photos. I really don't. I think it's very confusing to me, at least because
I'm hopeful that it will improve, but if it doesn't, I'll have to use something like Lightroom.
And I don't mind paying the $10 a month for the Creative Cloud photo thing, because I get Lightroom and Photoshop for $10.
If you stop paying that $10, what happens to your access to your photos? Are they kind of
Nothing.
hostage?
They're all on a hard drive.
Okay.
I still have access to my photos. I just don't have the organization.
Okay.
And I can always go get something else. And I can buy Lightroom on its own. They don't allow you access to Lightroom Mobile because that works through Creative Cloud.
Okay.
So that's kind of a knock on that. But I don't mind it. I kind of like it. And the reason why Kevin brought this up is they just did an update to where I showed off, I guess last week was my little, with my Nexus, I can do multi-exposure photos. So I can do exposure bracketing. And I was bringing it into Lightroom, and it would do what's called a high dynamic range, which takes all the exposures and kind of puts the best versions of it out. It would do it over into Photoshop. And it's working very high resolution, but it's converting it over to a TIFF file, which you lose some of the fidelity. Now with this update, it's all done inside Lightroom, and it works entirely in RAW, and the resulting file is RAW. So suddenly you have access to every one of Lightroom's developing features in order to kind of tweak the photo the way that you want it. And my mind was blown. I mean, that was fantastic. There's some other features they say they've improved. Their slideshow, they said they've improved a little bit. I don't think they'll ever get quite to Apple's level of beauty with that. That is one thing I miss. But man, I was very, very tepid towards it when I first started, and in the last 3 months, I have utterly fallen in love with Lightroom.
Yeah, I was a Lightroom user, and now, in hindsight, made the mistake of moving to Aperture, and jumped hit all the way in, converted everything over to Aperture. I've got about 10 different Aperture libraries, each with a huge number of files in it. Just because if I kept them all in one, that file got so big and unwieldy. I've got my family, my church library, my tech library. Anyway, so now I'm going back to Lightroom, and with this recent update is when I decided to take the plunge and jump back into it. And so, I almost never open Photoshop to edit a picture anymore because I was using Aperture, but now I'm using Lightroom. But for church folks, one of the cool things is, of course, you can create beautiful slideshows in Lightroom. They've really improved this a great deal, in my opinion. I haven't used it yet much, but it just looks a lot nicer. You can make prints. A cool outreach tool is have something like a community outreach event and bring a laptop and a mobile printer and take pictures of kids and then print them right away. They get to take it home with them. We had a thing that we did a craft project where we took pictures, printed them up, and gave them the photo, and they got to bring home a fridge magnet with it. And it took about 10 minutes for the kid to sit and do the project from picture to walk away with it. And then, of course, you can export to web. One of the things I like is these publishing services down here in the corner. You see, I haven't set these up. Now, I'm having an issue, and I put a case in with Adobe. It used to be that you'd set up this Flickr and Facebook, and it would immediately show you all your Flickr and Facebook libraries that are already up there. That's not working.
They don't do that anymore, and I don't know why. It's only the ones that you update through the app. Yeah,
and that was so nice to have because I almost never used the Flickr interface. I used that. I'm all in on Flickr, and it's kind of a redheaded stepchild now. That I maybe need to move somewhere else with my photos, but anyway, so I really like Lightroom, and I think it's a good tool. And by the way, if you want to get a cloud subscription to this, like you said, it's only $10 a month, which is a great deal for software that brand new is going to cost you, what is it, like used to be $1,000 or $2,000 for Photoshop, and then
Yeah, I think Photoshop's come down to like
$400.
Yeah.
Something like that. But if you don't want to go that far and pay that much, let me show off Pixelmator.
Mm-hmm.
This I'm not real good at this. Wes actually is the one that kind of, you sort of convinced me. Whoops, wrong thing. That's something else. That's Daisy Disk. We'll look at that in a second. Pixelmator. Here's one thing I hate about it. I hate having to, all these different windows. That's an old Mac style thing. They're kind of getting away from that, aren't they?
Yes, they're going much more integrated.
So Pixelmator, please just give us a single. Is there a way to do that, to get rid of it?
No, unfortunately.
Yeah, just give us a single window, please. Anyway, but it has a lot of the Photoshop style tools in here. You got your tools over here for different stuff, and this is just a snapshot I took on my phone. It's not that great a picture, but and then you can do these color adjustments and all this stuff. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time on that. I just wanted to show you. Oh, I'm not showing that, am I?
No, we were wondering if it was just us.
Well, you should have said something. Oh well, let me show it to you here. Screen to share. All right, there it is. I'm sorry, guys. I wish someone had spoke up. Anyway, there's your tools over here. Your image in the middle. Effects browser. You can have all kinds of different effects if you want to apply them. Anyway, I've got the wrong tool up for this, don't I?
There you go.
Oh, that's pretty cool. You can change it. I don't know why I would do that, but that was just to show you what you can do. Sharpen. Again, I don't really know that well how to use this. Wes probably ought to be the one talking more about how to use this. But let's not spend a whole lot more time on that. But Pixelmator is just a lot cheaper. That's the point, isn't it? You get Photoshop quality for, what is it, $40 in the Mac app?
You probably get about 60% of the features for, I think it's $20, yeah.
Yeah, but you're going to get probably most of the features most people watching this would need.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I used it as my own editor on Mac for like 2 or 3 years.
All right. And then let me show you just a real quick hit. I'll mention a couple of others because we're going to be running long here real soon. I should have just kept my screen shared there. Get rid of Pixelmator. This is Daisy Disk.
I've got that.
Daisy Disk. Daisy Disk is a really nice tool. If you find your hard drive is filling up and you want to get rid of some stuff, you open it up and it shows you this disks folder, okay, and then you drill down into your disk and it'll show you what's using the most. So this is a disk that, it's just hooked up to my Mac. It was actually the one that came with the Mac Mini, and I replaced it with an SSD, but I hooked it up but haven't done anything with it. So you click on that, and then it quickly shows you with a visual format what's using the most stuff. And so the iMovie, Photos, Microsoft Office is on here. It does take a while for it to recognize this. For example, this disk has got 300 gigs, and so notice it's crawling along there. It's going to take a while.
It's going to build the map
for that to show. So that's why I went ahead and did this other one real quickly. And then if you say, well, let's say I don't want this stuff anymore. Let's see if I can find something I don't mind actually getting rid of. Click in the middle to go back out to the next level. Again, I don't have anything on here.
It makes it pretty easy to delete, though. It's almost too easy.
Yeah, and then what you do is then you say drag it down here to get rid of it, and it saves it there at first. It doesn't delete it right away, but it will. It's kind of hidden by my dock. Anyway, it saves it down there for you to get rid of, and then you can put all the stuff you want to get rid of, and then boom, hit one delete key. the biggest thing for me is it visually shows me what's hogging my disk space, and so that's why I like it the most. So that's Daisy Disk. All right, Antoine, you're the new kid on the block as far as this episode goes. Do you have an app or a piece of software? You know, just we don't have a whole lot of time, but what's your number one non-Bible software, non-major software tool that you like to use?
You're muted, Antoine.
Okay, that's why I was wondering if was he just thinking or
Yeah,
is
I thought he was pondering.
No, I'm thinking. Yeah, I'm thinking too. The first one would be probably TiddlyWiki.
Be what?
TiddlyWiki, TiddlyWiki. It's a personal content management system. It's a one-page content management system. I think we've talked about it before.
Mm-hmm.
I actually use 2 instances of it. One instance I have running on as my personal website, and I have another instance where I'm using it as a not online notebook for just about everything. I use it for everything from starting presentations. I've used it for presentations, building out documents to scripts to I actually have some minor image management that's happening with it. It's a really cool piece of versatile software, and I think right now I've got maybe about 2 years worth of data in my personal notebook, and it's still not even 2 megabytes in size. It's for what it does, it's actually pretty beautiful, quite beautiful. About the only thing that I can't use it for, and that's because I haven't been able to sit down long enough to figure out how to hijack JavaScript to correctly work in it, is as an RSS reader, because that's literally one of my long-standing projects, is to take my RSS reader that I've developed and I use also very often and pretty much meld that into TiddlyWiki. But that piece of software, I'd argue that's my everything right now. It's too simple, it's too effective.
Ooh, guys, I'm sorry. Breaking news. The plug is officially pulled on the Time Warner and Comcast merger.
Thank goodness.
Oh.
Oh yeah. That was the news last night. Oh, sorry, early press release.
We have Time Warner, which isn't great, but I've never heard anything good about Comcast, and I was not looking forward to that.
Merging them would not be good.
Comcast is one rung below Time Warner.
Yeah.
Oh, thank goodness.
Yeah.
Well, that's good news, I guess. I'm charter, so it didn't affect me at all. So, very selfish and vain. I don't care. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Well, let me put a exclamation point on this with one of my favorite tools that just recently got an update, and that's Reflector. Reflector 2 has just come out and makes it a lot nicer tool. And what Reflector does is it turns a Mac into an AirPlay receiver, so you can show your phone or your let's see here. You can show your phone or your iPad, your iPhone or your iPad on the screen. And let me see if I can quickly pull it up. You can actually see what it looks like. And there you go. So I've got my phone up here, and I can rotate it, which is probably the better way to do it. And if I wanted to make presentations from this, I could easily do so, have a Mac across the room. My wife uses this in her classroom. She walks around with her iPad and shows the things on the screen for her kids to see. That way she's not tied to the front of the room. She can walk around and help the kids at their desk with the different things that they're working on. And Reflector 2 is so much better than Reflector 1. Reflector 1, it was like, wow, you can do this, that's cool. But it was that's all there was to it. But here you've got a lot more. For example, this record feature, you can actually do screen recording on it, which is a nice addition. It puts it up. You can't see this because I've got it on the wrong screen. Here, let me move. You can't do that, can you? Yeah, okay, there you go. Can you see that? Where the drop-down menu at the top, and it'll show you what's connected. Quickly get your, your updates, that kind of thing.
And you can have more than one device going at a time too, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
And so if you want, I can show it as, I've got a gold iPhone 6 Plus, so you can show it that way, or you can get rid of that, which is really the best way, in my opinion, is just, no frame at all. Go au naturel. So
can you expand it out?
Yeah.
Okay.
That answers that question.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a lot nicer. Now, here's the thing that'll be really cool. I know they can't do this because it's an iPhone thing, but it'd be neat if you could interact with your icons on screen.
I constantly want to do that when
when that, you're like, oh man, why won't it open Feedly? Oh, that's right, I've got to tap on it to do that in order for that to work. So now you can see all my apps on my phone, and I'll just highlight the ones: Feedly, Feed Reader, Pocket Casts. That's how I watch all my favorite podcasts. Reclouder is an awesome tool because it backs up my voice memos, and I use this for my mileage. I just pop that thing open, speak into it, starting mileage, where I'm going, the date, that kind of thing. And Slack is a tool for notebooks.com that we use to interact with one another. The Scannable is, in my opinion, the best scanner that you can get. You can take a picture of thinking, and it'll export it into Evernote for you. Really nice. So anyway, that's enough of what's on my iPhone for today. Well, guys, this has been fun, and it's been a nice, good hour with lots of helpful tools. I hope we helped out somebody out there with something that they find useful. If you'd like, go ahead and in the comments below, we'd love to hear what you use. If you've watched this on YouTube, then list maybe 3 or 4 of your favorite non-Bible software related tools that you use and help out the community. Or if you see this on Google Plus, then you can put it in the comments down there, and they will jump back and forth. We'll also be posting this on theotek.com, and you can see it there. As always, we have this on Stitcher Radio and iTunes in audio format, and we'll do that. I usually post it sometime. I usually try to say Monday, but it almost never happens on Monday anymore. So more like Tuesday or Wednesday, sometimes Thursday or Friday of the next week. But I'll get it up there. This week's I got up a lot quicker than I have in the last few weeks. But guys, thanks for helping us out with this, and all of you who are watching or listening, thanks for sticking with us this long. And please subscribe. We'd love to have you do so. Thanks for watching.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
What happened?